probably be able to do a tour if we could fit it into schedule so you can get out on the water and see what's happening. And that didn't make it on here either. It's kind of unfortunate because of the effort that they have to go to prepare for that. It doesn't, and I don't think anything was intentional to slight anyone, but the appearance that we communicate as effectively as possible with them. And in our June meeting, we had mentioned that we reach out to them, and I know the director made an effort in an email, but is this something we probably want to focus on a little bit harder? We know there's a group out there that's been trying to get an audience with us for nearly a year and a half that we have a one-on-one or somehow keep them better informed. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm a little disappointed we didn't put that in any part of this agenda.
Thank you, Doug, for coming. Take a vote on this change with the agenda. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next item on our agenda is consent agenda to approve the minutes from our June 28th board meeting. Action item is to approve those minutes. So, yeah, all those we need a motion on that to approve the minutes. Do we have any comments before we do that? Changes? Second from Mr. Black. Any comments, thoughts? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Passes. Approved. Okay, let's turn the time over to Director Buck's going to go over open meeting procedures.
First of all, somebody who's in the audience let me know that they can hear.
We need to mute those.
This is Tamara in Fremont County. I can hear you now, but we have not heard the last 10, 15 minutes at all.
Okay, so you can hear me now, right?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
All right, so you have to turn your sound off.
No, mine I just turned on. Those do have to be off. I've just told him to turn those off.
So for everybody, we're changing the sound so it's better for you.
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, so when you have when you're having a hearings on the rules, you're still having some feedback.
Anybody else logged on?
Or is anybody else logged on that's not? Okay, for public hearings for rules, what we do is we record the public hearing. We also have written comments that the board has all received, all of your written comments, even those we got this morning, they have copies of them. And so the public comments are about the rules that were published, and you would get a chance to make whatever comments you like to make, but it's not a question and answer session. There won't be question and answers. If you have questions, pose them to the board, and when they deliberate with regard to their actions, they can either decide whether or not they want to ask those questions themselves or answer them. But it's certainly, those are the types of things that we want. We want you to tell us things that you don't understand, things you want to change, things you like, things you don't like. We want you to be very open and honest about what you want. This is your hearing. You don't have a time frame set. That's why this meeting was set to be as long as necessary. And then we'll call on people that are on the call, and I will actually reach out to everybody to make sure we have everybody done. Like I said, we did have a hearing about this about 2 months ago. So this is the second one to make sure that everybody has a chance to get their concerns out. For the board, if you have questions about anything that from the staff, it is not appropriate to do that during the hearing itself. But during your deliberation, that is when it's appropriate to ask questions that you may have of any of the staff, or certainly anybody from the audience who testified at the time. But I would prefer that, if you have a deliberation, we do need to make a decision. Let's see, Seth, where are you? Does the decision have to be made today, or what is the time frame for the publication of the rules required by DFM? DFM is a Division of Financial Management.
Well, we still have through the August, at least.
Okay, so in the event the board wants more time before they make a decision with regard to the rules, we'd have to set a special meeting prior to the end of August to make a decision. Okay. And the decision is which version of the rules you want to have published. So if there's changes, what changes do you want? So right now, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has about the process.
Over here. Time limit? Is there a time limit on, then that answers.
Yeah, there's no time limit. If there was gonna be a time limit, it would have already had to get published. I'm not one to have time limits with regard to public comment. Some of you know my history. I was a city attorney for 30 years. So all over the state, and I would rather have people have a chance to testify and provide any comments that they want, any questions they want to be in the record. But again, it's not a question and answer session during the hearing. Okay. But time limits, I think, are something that we don't need to do, and I think this board at least informed me that they want to make sure that everybody has ample opportunity to make comments and not have shortening of comments because of the time frame. And that's why this agenda is set up as it's set up, so that we have as much time as we need today. I do know the chairman has to catch a plane this afternoon, so we wanted to make sure we had this whole morning for as much time as the public wants on this board. Any other questions or concerns from the board?
Just the echo, pretty hard to understand.
Yeah, hey,
People
Craig,
work on that.
Craig,
The public comment doesn't start until 9 AM, and I think we shouldn't start until then.
Yeah, the rule is that you cannot start public comment early.
so we gotta
So
figure
that's why
out
it's
how
that
to get
we'll
one of those
take a
computers to
break
be
until
able
9
to.
and work on the sound.
Like this
because
one
of
needs
the
to be
echo.
muted.
Thank you, Director Buxton. So right now, just recess, take a break.
We can,
Back here
we
now.
can unmute. No, let's see if I can unmute this.
John wants to watch that.
Pretty good. I feel like it's kind of a letter staff would work. I was doing yeah, I can submit. You gotta understand, I was the director since September until April. And during that time,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been a good time. Well, we appreciate the session for dropping comments and beyond.
no, we got the letter from Tom. So, I talked to the governor about it. Because of the hearing issue, because the legislature, I don't know if you understand, because the legislature will not approve the state. Every agency has to have its own to go back into temporary degree, a publisher. And so that's why this has to happen. When, I've got to be really careful about making sure it's fair and every chance and all that. And no matter where we meet, it's going to be a different time. That was somewhere. So that's why I'm pretty careful about that. So I really want to have a separate message. You guys do that. Yeah.
I'm not hearing an echo right now.
Let me ask.
You're in echo now.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that. Is it miking us right now?
Hard to know, for sure.
So can everybody hear us better now? Can you give us a thumbs up for those people who are on the Zoom call? Is the feedback less now?
Larry Larson, can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us? Laxon, sorry.
Or Dave Blakeham too?
Mr. Laxon, can you hear us?
Yes. No feedback? There's still feedback.
There's a little bit of feedback, but not too much.
We can try and get the sound bar out, hook it up to the projector, but I honestly would hate to add another variable to
I'm
this.
just not hearing the feedback like I was hearing before. 'Cause I was hearing
There's so much going on in the background. You can't,
Right.
like, we're picking up everything there.
So if I sit down this close, can you hear me well now without feedback?
Yes.
Yeah, but right
Okay,
this
perfect.
second.
I think we were able to nail it. So thank you for being our testers. And we'll be back in touch soon. Thanks, everybody, for helping us. That's good. We're good.
So did you turn the audio all the way up?
Yeah, it's cranked.
And then that one's muted and it's fine.
Yeah, that made the echo go away in the room. I just didn't know how it's gonna be on their end. But apparently it's acceptable.
He said that when people are right here, so they can hear really well. So when that counts from the podium, we might need to move the podium closer so that they can hear if they can.
You move the podium, still have the shot.
Yeah. That Well, I think we're still looking way up in the sky there. You see what I'm saying? We need to pull.
No, Betty, I think it's good. See?
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I was looking at the wrong one.
Here versus pressing forward.
See, I've got two screens. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the other screen. I guess we don't have to have that video. No, I have a lot. Yeah. Yeah. It's not- Let's still do this because right now. I can take it until we get started.
You get it. Okay, thank you.
Good job.
Hey,
So next agenda item is the Idaho, the public hearing for the rules for IDPR. I've asked Director Buxton to oversee the public hearing, help the board. And, so anyway, Director Buxton. Did everybody hear us just fine on the Zoom call? Anybody want? Randy, are you there still?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, perfect.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public, my name is Susan Buxton. I'm the executive director of the State Department of Parks and Recreation. Now is the time for the hearing of the Idaho Parks and Recreation IDPR rules. Those rules are going to be considered again by the legislature because the legislature did not approve all the rules of all the state agencies. We are having these hearings around the state. We've already had one set of hearings, and this is another public hearing for people to testify with regard to the rules themselves and any changes that have been proposed in these temporary rules. So now's the time for the hearing. We do not have a time limit on testimony, and we will go until we are done. I do understand that CUNY County has an appointment that they need to get to back in Coeur d'Alene, so they've asked to go first. And actually, I'm looking at the sign-up sheet, and Leslie Duncan is, if you're available to come to the podium and speak, that would be great. Before we start with Ms. Duncan, Commissioner Duncan, I believe, so thank you for being here. Can everybody on the call hear? Tamara, can you hear me speaking?
Yes, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And again, everybody on Zoom, if you'll mute your mics, that would be great to make sure we don't have any feedback. Okay, Leslie, thank you.
Good morning, distinguished board. I'm Leslie Duncan, CUNY County Commissioner, 451 Government Way, Coeur d'Alene. I have participated in several meetings over the past year and a half concerning the 30% cap rule. During that time, I've had the opportunity to listen to arguments on both sides of the issue. I've also learned that previous CUNY County Parks directors, county and Waterways advisors have raised concerns about the same rule dating back to more than 20 years. There are others this morning that will speak to the reasons why the cap rule is problematic. I would just add that nearly 200,000 citizens of CUNY County generate a significant fuel tax revenue, which funds the WIC grant program. CUNY County also has the most registered boats in the state, provides the finest marine facilities in the state, and yet we are limited by a rule that prevents us from competing for more funding needed to provide services and facilities that benefit the highest number of boaters in the state. That doesn't even include everybody from out of state that puts a strain and uses our facilities. After review of the facts, listening to concerns, and participating in a phone conference with IDPR where we discussed this issue, I've concluded that there appears to be no rational reason for this cap rule, particularly when compared to similar grants offered by IDPR. We ask the board support the removal of the 30% cap rule for the benefit of all agencies statewide. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The next person that signed up to testify is Nick Snyder from Coogan County.
Good morning, Director, members of the board. Thanks for the opportunity. I know the board has discussed the 30% with cap rule in other meetings and has some understanding regarding the county's concerns. That said, we want to ensure the board has an opportunity to hear directly from those that are impacted by the cap. The 30% with cap was adopted in 1990, and there was little information as to who made the original request and why. Kootenai and Bonner counties have made several requests to IDPR over the past 20 plus years to examine the rule and provide information as to why the rule is relevant. Fast forward to February of 2020, Kootenai and Bonner counties submitted letters to the director and the board requesting an examination of the cap rule. In response to Kootenai County's request as to why the cap was needed, the response was that 30% cap is necessary to prohibit any one county from receiving all the funding in a single grant cycle. This reasoning simply isn't supported on the basis of fact. If the argument to retain the cap is any one county could receive all the funding in any single grant, why is there not a cap rule on the other grants? Doesn't the same risk or greater risk exist in all grant programs? Notably, no county has ever received all the funding in a single grant cycle in the history of the grant program. This includes all grant programs offered by IDPR, even though they don't have a cap. There is also an existing safeguard in place to prevent any one county from receiving all the funding without the need for the 30% cap. A grant committee comprised of representatives from around the state review, score, and make recommendations to the IDPR board as to which grants to fund. Those recommendations are then forwarded to this board by IDPR staff for approval. So in practice, no entity could realistically receive all the funding without unanimous support from the review committee, IDPR staff, and this board. As part of this process, IDPR recently received comments in support of keeping the cap rule, and I'd like to share some of those with you this morning and respond to some of those concerns. One comment reads, concerns with eliminating the 30% cap to one county or with grants, depending on committee priority. Projects could concentrate grant funding. The committee is to review and score grant applications based on a set of criteria. Committees then score certain projects higher than others based on that criteria, thereby concentrating funding to a few select projects. This is precisely what grant committees do. Another comment reads, smaller counties have few resources and stronger need. WIF is intended to be a statewide benefit. The most benefit for the most users demands broad distribution of funds throughout the state. Well, smaller entities are not typically burdened by the 30% cap. They typically will go after smaller projects. Large entities tackling large projects are typically have the issue with the rule. The 30% cap rule specifically hinders those large projects. Notably, large projects typically benefit the greatest number of users. Smaller entities are also hindered by the cap by limiting the amount of funding they can receive. As stated in the comments, smaller entities have fewer cash resources. Thus, they may not have the funding necessary to cover those costs above the cap, where a larger entity would, thereby discouraging them from pursuing those higher quality projects. They simply don't have the cash to make it. The existing cap rule does not provide funding distribution equity. Rather, it merely discourages agencies from pursuing more costly projects because they don't have the funding. The last comment I'll share with you is the current cap has worked for some 15 years without problems. This statement is factually incorrect. The cap rule has caused project delays, cost overruns, grant extensions, and discourages entities from tackling higher quality projects due to the increased match funding needed for the project, which likely those larger projects would have benefited the greatest number of users. One example is the $1.3 million Harrison Breakwater project Kootenai County tackled in 2016. Kootenai County had to apply for 5 grants, 3 federal boating infrastructure grants, and 2 Waterways Improvement Fund grants over a period of 4 years necessary to compile the $1.3 million. Because the cap limit request to 30% of the total available fund, or approximately $350,000 on the high end. So grants for during this time, steel pilings increased from $280,000 to nearly $600,000. If the cap rule did not exist, Kootenai County would have applied for a single WIF grant and a single federal grant in the same grant cycle and completed the project in less than 2 years. This would have allowed the county to complete phase 1 of the project 2 years earlier and with the budget. It would have also eliminated the need to now go back for additional grants to complete the project. Grant projects lasting longer than 2 years create unique grant administration and extension problems for both IDPR and the applicant. You may ask half a year about that. There are also other factors that should be considered when contemplating a rule that limit funding opportunities that benefit the greatest number of users. Other factors were not likely considered when the rule was adopted. As an example, Bonner and Kootenai counties have unique waterway conditions and substantially more use than any other part of the state. Some examples are Kootenai County has the highest number of registered vessels in the state at 21,000, and neighboring Bonner County has the second highest number at nearly 13,000. These two neighboring counties make up approximately 32% or 1/3 of the total registered vessels in the entire state of Idaho. The 2016 economic impact study completed by Boise State University, funded by IDPR, states that Kootenai County is by far the greatest contributor to the state's economic voting impact. Boise State indicated that $89 million is raised from Kootenai County, and the Kootenai County is, quote, the king of power voters in the state of Idaho. Members of the board, though the WIF grant program is by itself a fantastic funding opportunity, we love it, please don't change it, other than this. But the 30% cap, however it came to be, does not work. It has never worked in meeting the needs of the voting public for the state of Idaho. This inefficient, poorly conceived rule merely restricts the highest number of users from having a safe, enjoyable experience and causes frustration of those agencies endeavoring to provide the public with the best facilities possible. Removing the cap from this particular grant offering will provide all public agencies the ability to complete quality projects in less time, with less expense, and this directly benefits the recreating public throughout the state of Idaho and the agencies that serve them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jeff Conley.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wallace and North Idaho. What I want to say is echoes a lot of what Kootenai County has already said. That's why I wanted them to go first. Bonner County has unique waterways. We have the largest bodies of water in the state of Idaho. These create all kinds of issues for us to try to take care of. Not only facilities, but just to man the boats that try to take care of and watch over all these miles of waterways. We believe that the 30% cap is somewhat punitive to the northern counties, and we believe that there's large projects on Lake Ponderay that are going to go years without being done, addressed and removed. I appreciate your time. I won't, they've covered most of it. I think that it's a 30-year-old rule that should be changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Mike Ladder. I can't read your words. You're up, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. I represent Clearwater County Sheriff's Department. I'm the sergeant there in charge of grants and contracts. I'm also in charge of the Marine program. The sheriff wanted me to speak on his behalf and for the Clearwater County Commissioners in opposing doing away with the 30% cap. Listening to Kootenai speak, I understand what their frustration is, and I understand that those big projects require more funding. And I also had the opportunity to be on District 2's WIF grant board for 6 years. And in that 6 year period, we did fund big projects and we did it in phases. They're wanting to eliminate the cap would potentially put all the rest of the counties in the state that don't have the bigger projects in the same boat that they think that they're in. Let me explain. So if you release the cap so it's not 30%, they can have a big project, say for the whole amount or 2/3 of it. That eliminates all the smaller counties with the chance to be able to fund their projects. So therefore, that year, that grant cycle, your users, the users in the north that gets the bigger grant, they would get the funding. All the rest of the state has to wait for the crumbs at the bottom end. There's nothing saying that the next year's grant cycle, there isn't somebody else with a big grant that's going to take that funding. And again, those counties that are depending on that funding to help make their marine program or their boating program successful, they're going to just sit around and wait for their projects to be funded. Just like Kootenai was saying that they took 4 years to fund the breakwater. I was on that grant committee when we funded those years. I was on that. So I feel that by taking away that cap, you take away the opportunity for other counties in the state to have a chance at that funding. Yes, it's different than the rest of them in the state that the IDPR overseas, but this is there kind of as a safety net for other counties to be able to participate. My particular county, we have built our program over a period of 20 years by using the WIF grant. We have bought boats, we have bought docks, we have bought help with facilities. Our biggest grant year one year was way back in 2010. We did a big grant. We had probably $160,000 we did for buying destination docks for Gorsak Reservoir. So I understand those big projects cost money, but there's nothing saying you have to do them instantly. I have never seen them not phase a project and keep not phasing. I mean, it keeps being funded throughout the year. So again, thank you for letting me talk, but I believe that the 30% cap, by eliminating it, would screw up everybody else in the state. That there's no guarantees that they would be able to get funded for years for some of their smaller projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Ted Leach.
Good morning. My name is Ted Leach. I'm the chairperson of the Torah County Waterways Committee. During my 35 years on this committee, I have helped and seen many successful WIF grant projects. The 30% rule has been a huge factor in the success of the WIF grant program, especially for the smaller counties. What incident, my question, what incident or group of incidents has created this sudden desire to slash the 30% rule? Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Frank Dawson.
Good morning. My name is Greg Dawson. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm from Orofino and Clearwater County. I'm on the Waterways Board, as well as on the District 2 rep for the WIF Grant Advisory Committee. And this is the first year I got on that. So to speak, I guess I'm not in favor of dropping the 30% rule. I'm in favor of keeping it, but I'd like to explain why. You know, I speak for Clearwater County, but having the opportunity to sit on that grant advisory board was interesting. And so I guess I'm representing, you know, the whole state, because it's a good process. It's a great grant opportunity, but it was relatively easy to see the difficulty or the split, if you will. There's very large projects that are very worthwhile, right? They do serve huge numbers of people. But the same way, there's relatively, it's all a matter of scale. Some of these smaller counties have a great need. They have very few funding sources. It takes them a while to save up their match. And with, they just can't, in the grant review process, it's very difficult to shine, I'll say, right? But that doesn't mean what they're needing isn't important to the voters of Idaho. So I guess I'm not one to just complain. I want to see a solution, right? So I offer this. I look back, I was a forester in my career, and I didn't work for the federal government, but I saw what would happen in their timber sale programs. They had very large mills, very small operators, and they soon decided that there should be a small timber sale program because you just can't compete, right? And I wonder if that opportunity isn't here to say, once every 4 years or whatever, if you're going to do away with 30%, once every 3 or 4 years, limit the grant opportunity to, and you can define what a small county is versus a large, and allow them that process of time to save up for what they need and compete amongst equal sized counties, right? And then the rest of the time, it could be open for larger projects as well. But that may put it on a little more even footing because it is going to impact, I feel, the smaller counties. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dave Fair.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. I am the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Post Falls. Yeah, I could have sent a letter to you, but I felt it was important coming forward and having our voice heard. And I bring to you my department's support and my city's support for the removal of the 30% cap. From our standpoint, it has not been working. It has definitely not helped my department deal with the growth that our region has experienced, and it has been heavy, heavy growth. In Kootenai County, there are 28 public launches or launch areas. Of that, 9 of them are not operated by the counties. And my point in this is that this is not just a county issue. This involves the cities too. We have a stake in this, and we have a responsibility to provide services. It augments sometimes what the states are doing. Different counties operate differently, but we're involved in the trenches at the same time. And there are a lot of providers that are impacted by these rules. But it's not just about launches. There are other amenities. We have 6 other parks that are on the water. Some of them provide for motorized, some of them don't. We have both above the Post Falls Dam, which is a good boatable area, and then below, which is a little more free running. Post Falls, our one motorized launch, is above the dam. It was built in 1981. It's at capacity. It is the first launch that you get coming from state line headed east. So people stop there. It's definitely in need of renovation. We do the best we can, but with the current formula, we recognize the county has a lot of projects. We don't make it up high enough to ever address those needs. When I heard you're doing this hearing, I had a chance to read some of the past comments and stuff. And I saw stuff for and against, but one of them, and they're mostly from counties, but there were a few from individuals. And one caught my attention because I think they wrote it a little bit simpler. They used a lot of bullet points, but their bullet points captured pretty much what was said through a lot of the letters that were to keep the formula as it stands. So I'd like to kind of address that if I may. Their concern was eliminating the 30% cap for one county. And they talked about, depending on committee priorities and projects, this could concentrate funding to a select few projects. That's true even now. But you folks have a check and balance system in it. You have a committee that reviews it. You have staff that reviews it. And finally, you folks have the final review. There is a check and balance in. When it was created, that all our grants looked at that. We've heard today and in the letters, larger counties have larger programs and are able to put together professional packages which could help them score better. I've worked for counties, I've worked for cities, I've worked for large agencies, I've worked for small agencies. I have, as a professional, have never looked at the size of my agency to gauge how my professional applications will be. We're going to put out the best we can with the resources we have. But you also have a computerized system now. The last grant cycle put things in. That kind of evens the field. I can't put in all the pretty pictures, which is killing me, but we're doing that. Smaller counties have fewer resources and stronger needs. When I started with Post Falls, we were 7,500 people. My capital budget, that was capital for equipment, capital for projects, was $3,000. We've grown, we're over 40,000 people in our city right now. I'll probably gain another 500 while I've been here. I can tell you the pressure hasn't changed. My job has not gotten easier. The demands have increased. The money isn't there. This is Idaho. And you know something, when you're poor, you're poor. We don't have the same resources a lot of states have. There aren't magical funding cycles. So the pressure is there no matter what size you are. Sometimes the mountain may look a little taller, but it's still there. The WIF is intended to be for statewide benefit. I agree with that. But I don't know how you divide it out without, I think really what we're looking at is what provides the best opportunity and experience to enjoy outdoor opportunities in Idaho. That's what we're looking at. The most benefit for the most users demand that we distribute the funds throughout the state. Yeah, but it also demands that you look at where your heaviest usage is. There's a balance in there. I'm lucky. I can talk here and say you need to do that. You guys have to actually do that staff. And it's not easy. I get that. The current cap has not worked. Not for us. For some places, maybe. But it's just not working. Larger counties have greater access to other grant funds and other fund distributions. I'll put the cities in with that. It's not true. I've worked for all different sizes. I'll go back to that Idaho. When you're poor, you're poor. We're very limited on our resources available. And I think that's why you're hearing people up here talking is we're all trying to meet the demands of our users, continue to meet growth, continue to provide stuff. And we haven't talked about how expensive stuff is becoming to build now. We're all in a challenge. But the final thing they said is, remember, even with 30% cap, you can concentrate 90% of your spending on 3 counties, but not likely to happen, but it could. And that's really what I wanted to focus. That's a what if. I call that the what if flaws. Well, it's never happened, but in theory, it could happen. I'll push back that you guys still have a way to address that. It's your check and balance. It's the committee. It's the state. It's you folks. So to base it on what could happen, in theory, doesn't make sense. You're going to hear for and against, and everybody's right. Everybody is perspective. That's all it is. Maybe based on a little bit of experience. We all have our opinions. But what I'm trying to understand is how one grant ended up with a cap that none of your other grants do. It doesn't make sense to me, but I will trust that you guys will work through all this and, we'll live with what you do and everything. Hopefully explain how it works and benefits and why it was done. That's all I'm asking. The other thing I'm asking is I'm not looking for special treatment. I'm looking for equal treatment. We just want to be able to know what opportunities are and how to navigate it so we can meet the needs of our community, of our region, and ultimately of our state. So thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Emerson?
Thank you, Commissioner Buxton, Board of Commissioners. I'm Sandy Emerson. I'm from Coeur d'Alene. I'm a lifelong Idaho resident. Voted my entire life. North Idaho lakes, but I've probably been on almost all the lakes and waterways, rivers, streams of Idaho. I've been on the Idaho Fish and Wildlife Board, Foundation Board. I was the president for 2 years. I've been on the Kootenai County Waterways Advisory Board. I was on it in 1990 when this rule was passed. We objected to it at that time to ask the county commissioners to step up and object, and of course it got passed. There were a lot of good reasons back then for us to object. The amount of money was quite low. Back then, there weren't as many boats registered, and so it was 200,000 might have been the whole amount, or 250. We actually worked, speaking to Clearwater County, we worked with other counties to share the plan. We would say, we need more of the money this cycle, and so we're going to apply for this grant, but we won't do any next time, and we'll support you in your project. We work back and forth really well. So that's something I wanted to emphasize. I did, we still continue to oppose this 30% cap for the reasons I'm not going to go into everything. Nick Snyder spoke well about the money that could have been saved and was not well managed because the cost increased because having to put it through in 3 different cycles. Harrison in particular, we've also had some, I was thinking David White would be here. We've worked with Farragut quite a bit. There's big projects there. Higgins Point, Lake Orleans, they were all over the limit. And we actually had to either do them in phases or when the state needed the money for their own purposes, they took it. So there's an interesting comment that goes with that. But anyway, you know my feelings. I did send a letter to the board, and I don't know if each of you got a copy of it. I won't read it. It's pretty much boils down to, I have had a lot of experience with this. I think it's been on these boards. I think that it's pretty clear that we can do a better job. And we're not trying to cut out smaller counties. We're just trying to husband the resources well for the bigger projects we might have. To end on a happy note, I don't know the protocol, but the Coeur d'Alene tribe, the Idaho DEQ, and our watershed folks have put together a new map of Lake Coeur d'Alene in the area with a lot of information that I think would apply to everybody else here on how to take care of water quality and preserve natural resources we all enjoy. So I don't know if I hand it to Doug and let him pass them around. We appreciate, by the way, Doug's efforts in taking care of just the service you can provide. So there's that map. And we also, the Museum of North Idaho is raising money right now for a new museum. And there's a frameable picture of a cruise boat, of the Finney cruise boats back in 1950. But we had our sheriff at the meeting when this was presented. And I pointed out that this is probably illegal. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Linda Heiss. I'm the grants administrator for the city of Sandpoint. And for any of you that have voted out of Bonner County recently, the boat launches are overwhelmed. We have in order to accommodate this usage, which is city residents, county residents, and massive amounts of tourists, we've undergone significant projects to improve these launches, ranging from expanding the size of the parking lot, redoing the boat parking, the launches themselves. In one case, we'll probably need to move the launch because it's right in the way of heavy pedestrian traffic, which is creating problems. Our most recent project at Memorial Field, it was a multi-million-dollar project, of which the boat launch was about $750,000, and we had significant match for that launch itself. But because of the 30% cap, we've had to phase that launch into 2 separate grants. The problem with doing this is staff time was duplicated. Now I have to administer 2 construction projects, 2 grants. The cost of materials, steel and wood, has risen significantly in our area. Labor has risen significantly. Now the project is much more expensive than it would have been if we'd been able to accomplish it in one round this year. We now have to close down a launch during construction for a second time this coming spring. So had we been able to accomplish this project in one go, the whole project would be done. Now the parking lot's done, the project's done. We now have to do phase 2 of the launch. So, so the 30% cap is very difficult. And we're really closely with our county to make sure that one entity isn't taking the full 30%. But in some cases, with these huge projects, that's what winds up happening. Necessity. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. I don't have any more sign up little sheets, other than I know that Will, I don't know if you'd like to testify.
Dr. Buxton, that was lieutenant, because he had to wait for a call, so he won't be able to testify.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'll note that you had to leave. Thank you. Jake, you're a good one. No, okay, he's not here either. So I don't have any else on the sign up sheet. Is anybody else in the audience that didn't sign up either on the sheet or put a little piece of paper in to sign up the document like to testify? Please, sir. And you could put your name for the record.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. William Greenwood, City Coeur d'Alene Park and Recreation Director. I worked for the City Coeur d'Alene about 23 years now. I became director in 2013, and I've seen a tremendous change in our community. Our community has doubled in size. Commissioner Duncan referenced this a little bit. The influence of our vacationers is huge. Our community probably more than doubles. And so, as you've heard from everybody else, our areas have a larger voter registration, but I think we have a bigger influence of neighbors. We get people here bringing boats all from everywhere I see.
Will, can I have you like speak a little louder
towards them? Okay.
Yeah, but mostly because it's
okay.
Towards that computer,
okay.
So that
very
people
good.
Can hear.
We can do that. And so we in the City of Coeur d'Alene have a tremendous amount of waterfront. We have public beaches that start at Sanders Beach that go to 12th Street Beach. We have the entire surface area of Tubbs Hill and all that waterfront. As it wraps around there, we have a 35 slip mooring dock for the public. And as you wrap around that, we have a launch dock that's probably one of the busiest I've ever seen around here. Then we go to Independence Point, where we have a commercial dock that has a float plane, cruise boats, parasail, and water sports. And we go to City Beach, and we have Hubbard Street Beach. Then we move down the river, and we have a brand new one that we just got an award from Idaho Cities. So it's called Atlas Mill Park. We have 4,000 linear feet of new waterfront for the public. We've got slated some docks that are going to go there. And so, and then we go further than that, we've got another little park called Mill River. And it's a dock there, and it's a public dock that people can just fish off of, that sort of thing. And I only bring all that up to you to show you how much waterfront we contend with and deal with. And it's expensive. Everything is, and Nick referenced this too, about when you get into a project, and we're running into some really odd things these days about cost overruns because product is going up out of sight, steel's going out of sight, decking's going out of sight. It's just unbelievable the cost of things. And so, and Mr. Emerson talked about this a little bit, and how we in these counties up here have been able to work together, but we've had to postpone projects because we're not getting enough funding. So we've all worked as a unit collectively, and the board has been very good about saying, as Sandy said, okay, we'll fund your project in 2 years, but we need to finish this one. And so in the meantime, we've got some docks that are deteriorating and they're becoming a hazard because we're waiting for some funding cycle to come through for us. And again, I just want to echo everything that Nick said, and I support, the removal of this because we have a greater need. And the board here has the ability to say no to us. So these smaller communities, they have the opportunity to get these funding. So I think it's real critical that this thing change so that we can have access to it in a way because we have the greater need up here. Thanks.
Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to testify? So I'm going to turn to everybody on the Zoom call on the phone, and the first person that's on I can see on the participant list is Ray Pella.
No, I'm just I'm fine. I'm a good listener.
Okay, sure. If you change your mind before the hearing's over, let me know. Okay, Ray?
Thank you.
Tamara, I see you. Would you be ready to testify now?
I certainly can. Thank you.
Thank
you. All right. My name is Tamara Thikaitonga. I am the Parks and Rec Director for Fremont County. And we're that little tiny county that if you sneeze wrong, we're either in Yellowstone or Grand Teton National Parks. We are a very small county population-wise, but we are a very, very utilized county. We have a lot of visitors. And so this is very important to us to retain this 30% cap because we don't have a lot of political power. We don't have a lot of the resources to go after a huge number of grants. So we appreciate the fact that the Water Improvement Fund has been there for us. And we appreciate the fact that it has given us an equal footing. We appreciate the fact that we have been able to utilize this. And the Fremont County Commissioners have forwarded to you a letter. I ask that that you consider their comments. They have asked that the 30% cap be retained. In listening this morning, I have thrown away my long, wordy comments, but what I would like to mention is having someone in Northern Idaho suggest, because they have all of the lakes and the water where other staters come, entitles that area to more of that recreation dollar in the WIF account. Makes as much sense as Fremont County going in and saying, oh my gosh, we have all of these snowmobilers, so we should get the ORMV fund. I should get a whole lot more ORMV because I get all the snowmobilers. That makes as much sense to me. Now, maybe that doesn't make sense to somebody else, but I also know that there's a lot of other sources of funds in Northern Idaho, including dock fees and launch fees. Other counties don't charge those. And so there's also another source of revenue there. I'm not saying that it is not an expensive hobby because recreation is an expensive hobby, but I also know that the smaller counties, which that makes up the most of Idaho, really need the opportunity to compete. Now, There are 4 seasons at my house, and I don't mean to sound trite, but this is where I'm coming from. There are 4 seasons at my house. We have snowmobile season, we have mud season, we have tourist season, and we have football season. Now, football season's okay, it's great, because everybody has the same rules and the same level playing field. And that is what I would like you to consider for the future for the WIF program. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. Let's see, David Claiborne, would you be able to go next? And please speak loudly too into your mic.
Thank you, Director. I'm happy to go now. I don't have any comments really to add that are not going to be offered by other members here that'll be providing some comments via Zoom. Those being from from Tamara in Fremont County, and from Larry Laxon and Shay White. So together we're representing the voice of Idaho Recreation Council and motorized and non-motorized recreationists and their groups throughout the state. So I'll just defer to their comments. I would mention, to the extent it's important for the record, that the administrative bulletin announcement for this hearing gave notice of a hearing and a Zoom link and a phone number at 9 a.m. Mountain Time today. I tried to log in at that time. The Zoom link and phone number did not work. We had distributed to our groups and concerned people the information published in the bulletin, and it doesn't appear that's what's being followed today. So I don't know the extent to which we had others within our organization or other interested people that wanted to comment today, but the principal ones are here, and I think we're okay. I just wanted to caution and point that out. Thank you.
Thanks, David. With that being said, in the end of this, I will recommend that the board keep the public hearing open so that we can provide additional comment, because the time should have said 9 a.m. Pacific. I apologize to anybody who had to wait too long, or anybody who did not get the chance to testify. So we will keep it open and probably have another hearing. So sometimes the time changes in the state kind of messes everybody up. So anyway, I apologize to everybody for that, but we'll be able to at least finish this hearing. Let's see. Okay, Mr. Laxon, would you like to testify next, please?
Good morning, Director Buxton, board members.
Would you please speak as loudly as you can into your mic, Larry?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Better, thank you.
You're welcome, Director Buxton, board members. My name is Larry Laxon. I'm the Parks and Rec Director for Valley County. It's interesting to hear people talk about population. If you look during the week, what we have, and then when you look on the weekends when we're invaded by Ada County and Canyon County, we probably have the biggest population. Valley County supports leaving the 30% cap in place as is. It's worked. It's going to work in the future. And that is our position. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Laxon. Shay White, are you able to testify, please?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
So I represent the Idaho Recreation Council and the Western Whitewater Association. And Western Whitewater Association is a very large group of boaters, and with many members having many boats. We are not in favor at all of removing the cap. It needs to stay where it's at. I did hear some people from Kootenai County say that some launches that they have that need worked on have non-motorized. Well, according to the WIF grant, that money cannot go to non-motorized projects. So I needed that stated. please do not change this. It works just fine. Every county needs to have get their piece of the pie. So thank you.
Thank you. See, I've got a list of people that are on the call. Is there, Ray, would you like to testify, or are you still okay not testifying?
No, I'm not. I'm just an invited guest, and I enjoy the listening here.
Okay, thank you. I'll make sure everybody gets their opportunity. Let's see. Anybody in the audience? I see Jake came back. Would you like to testify? No. Okay. All right. Anybody, anybody else want to testify? Okay. I don't hear. Is there anybody on the phone? Please speak up that wants to testify. There's some people for the audience that are on the line that are IDPR employees or the Attorney General's office or the Legislative Services Office that they would not testify. So I don't want you to think I was missing somebody or ignoring them. But unless any of you guys want to testify on your own behalf and not representing anybody in the government, then you certainly can do if you'd like. Hearing anybody? Like them? Okay.
I think what we're gonna have to do here.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, at this point, I would suggest that we continue this public hearing to a date certain so that we make sure that anybody who got messed up at the time with the time difference between Pacific and Mountain, that they have an opportunity to comment or provide their written comments. So I would like for the board to pick a date in the next week or so that we can continue the hearing and that you can continue your deliberations and decision as to which group of what rules you want to have published. Understand, everybody on the phone, everybody in the audience, this is all of our rules, not just the 30% cap. So if there's anything else in the rules you want to testify to about and you didn't get to, or you want to, or if you thought of something that's not about the 30% or something you've already testified about, then please come up now. Please raise your hand, or I'm happy to hear anything else, any other testimony on anything else in the rules. Dave, yeah, so Dave, please come back up, please.
The jacket's not going on, so I look like a new person. Just because it is on other things, I didn't know that one of the letters talked about the land and water distribution and wanting us to go back to an every year division, or right now it's every other year. So state parks gets one and then the locals get the other. Having served on the Idaho Park and Recreation Association board at the time that was done, we weren't getting much money, and it made sense at the time. It may make sense at this point, but the problem is we're basing it off of 1 year's revenue coming in. And I would ask the board just consider that if you look at that, make sure that we are going to get money from the feds. I won't tell you how many years I've been doing Parks and Recreation, but it's been more than a couple. And I've served with in two different states. And I can tell you, I've watched the money from the federal government up and down, up and down. So before you make a decision to go back to a yearly allocation for everybody, make sure that our revenue is consistent, that it's coming in. So I know I said, get rid of one rule, keep the other, but I guess my prerogative. But that's just all in the consideration. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Once again, I'm Sandy Emerson. I didn't mention it because I want to be brief and keep to the point, but there are a couple of items that should be brought to your attention, really related to cooperation in Kootenai County and North Idaho. I'm the moderator, I guess, right now for a committee that's been there for over 50 years, 4-County Natural Resource Committee. It was actually formed as the Tri-County Natural Resource Committee to deal with grants for waterways projects in North Idaho, so that the counties involved could cooperate and decide how they could best use the, at that time, limited money. It's interesting that it's made up of Kootenai County, Benewah County, Latah County, and Shoshone County. And that's because they all relate to Lake Coeur d'Alene or the tributaries. So the north end of Kootenai County is the south end of Lake Ponderay. So it's kind of an interesting mix up there. We've got the 3 major navigable rivers and 6 big lakes. So it's plus the chain lakes on the Coeur d'Alene River that are all accessible, mostly accessible by boat. So there's a lot of interplay and cooperation that we're already doing through this process. And it was actually formed to review the grants. And at one point, about 10, 15 years ago, the state decided to pass all their grant requests through committees like this. And so we actually got to recommend which regional grants were actually prioritized. So it's kind of evolved in a good way. And I think that the board needs to know that there is a mechanism for cooperation that we're dealing with, mainly because we need to really do a better job of using the funds that are available. And again, we work with grants from other agencies and other operations. We got a large boater grant that worked at Bayview on 28-foot or larger boats through the Coast Guard and through another fund. So anyway, I think it's worthy for you to know that those are the kind of things we're doing to make this work. And the 30% cap doesn't help us in that regard. Plus, I think we do a good, I don't think we're working at odds with the smaller counties. I think that's part of the conversation. We could keep that going in a better way. Maybe they feel that they're slighted or at a disadvantage. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Any other testimony from anybody on the phone or in the audience about any of the other rules that are subject to this hearing?
Pick me.
Okay, Tamara, you're it.
I just very quickly.
Again, Tamara, say your name again and your representation for the record.
Oh, my apology. My name is Tamara Thikai-Tonga. I am the Park and Rec Director for Fremont County, Idaho. I would just like to quickly state that I would love to get into the discussion about the Land and Water Conservation Fund, making it an annual application rather than every other year. We would love to see this discussed. We'd love to have the opportunity to provide input on that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Mr. Chairman, I request a motion from the board to continue this public hearing to a date certain.
To establish that date.
Date and time certain.
Yeah, recommend August 17th or 18th in the afternoon. You guys look at your calendars and you all look at your calendars and let me know what you think.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not available the 17th, but am available the 18th of the afternoon.
I would be available on the 18th.
I'm going to recommend like, let's say 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Pacific. That works for me. Mr. Eastwood. Okay. So could I get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table this matter.
I move to continue.
Move to,
thank you.
Sorry. Move to continue this public hearing to August 18th at 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Mountain Time. 3 p.m. Mountain Time.
Okay, so I have a motion from Mr. Cook. I have a second from Mr. Facken. Any comments, thoughts before we move on to a vote? Okay, let's call for a vote. And all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thanks, Randy.
Looks like it's a unanimous.
Unanimous.
So again, for everybody, everybody on the phone, everybody in the audience, this hearing will be continued until August 18th at 3 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Pacific, and we will get a notice out on the websites for and a Zoom address for that too. So again, I thank everybody for your time and for your effort to be here. So with that, Mr. Chairman, it's my advice that we don't take any action on this until we clean up our timing issue with regard to this hearing, so that any final decision will be made on the 18th. So if you have any additional comments or written comments, please feel free to submit those prior to 3 p.m. Mountain Time on the 18th.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So we're just continue the hearing as the motion voted. So there's no action items to be done. We'll continue the hearing to next week. Why don't we take a 10-minute break here? Be back in 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.